This is Fallout New Vegas, Condensed. Let's start with a quick rundown on the backstory. America and China went into war over natural resources. The war came to a climax in the year 2077 when the nuclear bombs were unleashed worldwide. Most of America was destroyed, but the survivors were able to start rebuilding civilization. Our main story takes place in the year 2281 in the Mojave Desert region. The New California Republic and Caesar's Legion are the two big factions fighting for control over the Mojave. The NCR is a democratic republic that strives to uphold the pre-war rules of law. While the NCR tries their best to maintain order, their authoritarian methods have been controversial. Caesar's Legion is a tribal army that adopted the cultural and military frameworks of the Roman Empire. To put it bluntly, Caesar's Legion are a bad bunch. They enslave any civilians they come across, and they enjoy crucifying their enemies. And to top it off, they're extremely sexist. Anyway, there is another central figure, Mr. House, the mysterious ruler of New Vegas. New Vegas rose from the pre-war city of Las Vegas, lucky to have been relatively unscathed from the nuclear holocaust. Mr. House wants to restore New Vegas to its pre-war glory, so he's dead set on kicking the NCR and Caesar's Legion out of the Mojave. And that's the basic idea of what's happening in the world of Fallout New Vegas. Your story starts off with your near-death experience. You were tasked with delivering a platinum chip to a special client, but a group of men ambushed you. Benny, the guy in the checkered suit, swipes the platinum chip and shoots you in the head.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
A week passes by, and you make a miraculous recovery. After getting a quick medical checkup, you're set loose into the Mojave wasteland. Now you gotta find Benny and take that platinum chip back. Word has it that Benny was making his way towards the New Vegas Strip, so you start tracking him down. You arrive at Prim, a town that's been invaded by escaped convicts, causing a lot of trouble for the townspeople. Once you rescue the town's deputy from a hostage situation, he points you towards Novak. Supposedly, that's where Benny was last headed. On the way to Novak, you pass through Nipton, where you first encounter Caesar's Legion. Having just finished their massacre, the legionaries choose to leave you unharmed so that you can spread word of the Legion's brutality.
I want you to teach everyone you meet the lesson that Caesar's Legion taught here. Especially any NCR troops you run across.
When you get to Novak, you meet Manny Vargas, who happens to know Benny. Manny knows where Benny went, but he asks for a favor first. There's an old rocket test site nearby that's been taken over by ghouls, so Manny wants you to get rid of them. Ghouls are humans that have been exposed to high levels of radiation, giving them a zombie-like appearance. Some ghouls retain their mental faculties, while others degrade into feral beings, like the ones you see here. Anyway, into the rocket test site, you stumble upon a religious cult known as the Bright Brotherhood. This strange cult is made up of a couple ghouls and one human who firmly believes himself to be a ghoul. The cult seeks to escape to the far beyond, a supposed paradise for ghouls. They're planning to get there using rockets, so you can either help the ghouls have a successful liftoff, or you can sabotage the launch, which will kill them all. As long as the ghouls are gone, Manny will be happy to share what he knows. He tells you that Benny has gone off to Boulder City, marking your next destination. In Boulder City, a raider tribe known as the Great Khans are at a stalemate with the NCR. Sent in to deal with the Great Khans, you recognize one guy that was with Benny. You're told that Benny betrayed his group and made a beeline to New Vegas. So you can resolve the stalemate between the NCR and the Great Khans by instigating a shootout, or you can avoid bloodshed by coming to a peaceful negotiation. When you finally make it to the New Vegas Strip, you're invited to see Mr. House, the big boss in town. You head inside the Lucky 38 casino with no humans in sight, just a bunch of Securitrons. On the top floor, you are formally introduced to Mr. House.
You've come a long ways, literally, and I suspect figuratively as well.
Mr. House asks you to take back the platinum chip from Benny. He makes it clear it's a big deal to him. Now that we have more or less reached Act 2 of the story, let's stop here for a moment. There are 4 different endings to Fallout New Vegas, which depends on who you side with. You can side with Mr. House, the NCR, or Caesar's Legion. If none of those options sound appealing, there's always Yes Man, more on that later. Let's explore what happens if you side with Mr. House first. In a casino, you finally find Benny, who's surprised to see you alive.
Let's keep this in the groove, hey? Smooth moves, smooth.
You can start throwing hands with him and take back the platinum chip, or you can talk things over. For storytelling purposes, let's just say you put Benny down for good and take the chip. Exiting the casino, you're approached by an agent of Caesar's Legion. The agent gives you the mark of Caesar and invites you to meet Caesar in person, but you gotta go visit Mr. House first. With the platinum chip now in his possession, Mr. House upgrades the offensive capabilities of his Securitrons. There's an army of Securitrons that need to be upgraded also, but they're stationed in Fortification Hill, which is Caesar's main base. It's rather convenient that you were already invited by Caesar himself. In your meeting with Caesar, he appears to be pretty impressed with what you achieved so far.
When you set your mind to something, you get results. I like that.
Caesar tells you to go into the Securitron vault nearby and destroy it, but you're not doing that. You've already committed to working with Mr. House. After upgrading the Securitrons in the bunker, Caesar assumes you've carried out his bidding, allowing you to leave Fortification Hill. Back in Lucky 38, Mr. House has another assignment for you. There's a tribe known as the Boomers that have caught his interest. Given their abundant firepower, the Boomers could be useful allies. Your job is to get them to work with you, and if not, to eliminate them as a potential threat. The Boomers are extremely hostile towards outsiders, but if you do manage to get past their bombing, you'll be let into their base. The leader of the Boomers, impressed by your survival of their bombing, is willing to consider an alliance.
My youngers think our guns can keep out the world, but I think we need to let it in just a little, or become its victim.
If you help them with their various troubles, they will come to accept you. After helping the Boomers retrieve a B-29 bomber from the bottom of a lake, they will be overly grateful for all your support, agreeing to side with you. Next on the agenda is to investigate the Omertas, basically a mafia family, and find out what they're up to. After snooping around their casino, it's clear they're up to no good. The Omerta leaders are planning a mass killing on the New Vegas Strip. You can put a stop to their scheme, or you can even help them out. Either way, you report back to Mr. House and tell him what happened with the Omertas. The following mission from Mr. House is to wipe out the Brotherhood of Steel. Mr. House's technology puts him at odds with the BOS, whose primary goal is to seize all advanced technology for themselves. Given their weakened state, this division of the BOS isn't too much of a threat. You fight your way through the BOS bunker and activate the self-destruct sequence, resulting in their annihilation. Your upcoming job from Mr. House is a little different. You're tasked with protecting Aaron Kimball, the president of the NCR. Mr. House needs President Kimball alive for his own goals. Kimball is going to deliver a speech at Hoover Dam where the risk of his assassination is very high. Thanks to your intervention, the attempts on his life are unsuccessful. The groundwork for Mr. House's big takeover is almost complete. Once Lucky 38's reactor is up and running, it's time for you to head on over to Hoover Dam, where the Legion forces are preparing to strike. At Hoover Dam, you make your way through the chaos as the NCR and the Legion are busy trading blows. Once the Securitrons over at Fortification Hill are woken up, it's your chance to push back the Legion forces. As you take the fight to the Legion's Legate camp, you come face to face with the big, scary second in command of the Legion, Legate Lanius.
An envoy of Vegas, yet you carry yourself for battle. If so, you cannot truly be of that city of cowards.
You can simply fight to the death with Lanius, but if you choose to talk things over, you could make Lanius believe that even if the Legion won the Battle of Hoover Dam, they would not be able to achieve a long-term victory. In other words, Lanius will retreat if he's successfully persuaded. On the way to exit the camp, NCR General Lee Oliver blows down the gates and comes up to you.
Caesar on the cross. Been a long time since I've seen the kind of work you've laid down today. A damn long time.
He thinks the NCR won the battle, but there's an army of Securitrons right behind him. It's up to your choice of words whether the general agrees to surrender and walk away, or fight an impossible battle against the Securitron army. After the NCR general is handled, Mr. House comes rolling in, and he commends you for all your hard work. Sometime after the Battle of Hoover Dam, Mr. House's Securitrons completely take over New Vegas and Hoover Dam, driving out the NCR and Caesar's Legion out of the Mojave. For the most part, New Vegas maintains the status quo. And yeah, that's the end. That's how the story goes if you go with Mr. House. Let's rewind and see what happens if you side with the NCR. We're going to go back to when you first arrive at the New Vegas Strip. You're invited to go see Ambassador Crocker, who tells you to go visit the Boomers and see if they'll team up. After making friends with the Boomers, Crocker will tell you about an ongoing conflict between the Freeside locals and the NCR citizens in the area. Freeside is the outer part of New Vegas. Just think of it as the ghettos. Anyway, there's been attacks on the NCR citizens that have been led by a group called the Kings. Pacer, one of the Kings, is the key figure in these attacks. Your job is to take him out, or hopefully come to a peaceful solution. I have to talk about the Kings for a bit. They're incredibly interesting in a quirky sort of way. The Kings are a gang that are entirely made up of Elvis impersonators. The funny thing is, they have no idea who Elvis Presley actually was.
Oh, I know it says school out front, but everything in here seems to be related to the worship of some guy from back in the day.
Inspired by his posters and recordings, the Kings embodied Elvis by adopting his image and speaking style. Anyhow, like I said, your job is to stop the Kings from harassing the NCR citizens. If you talk to the King himself and get on his good side, he might be willing to stop the attacks. Otherwise, you'll have to discreetly take out Pacer, the King's right-hand man. Things can play out smoothly, or it can descend into a bloodbath. Regardless of the approach you take, once the Kings are handled, the next challenge will be dealing with the Great Khans. The Great Khans are a raider tribe that could be a hindrance to the NCR in the future, so you have to make sure they won't be a threat. If negotiation doesn't work, you can assassinate their leader and replace him with a more agreeable successor. If all else fails, you'll just have to completely annihilate the Great Khans. With the Great Khans dealt with, your next objective is to find out what the Omertas are scheming. As stated before, the Omertas are planning a mass killing in the New Vegas Strip, so you put a stop to it. The next target is a big one. You gotta take out Mr. House. Getting past the security, you make your way into the control room of Lucky 38. You find a Mr. House's physical body, who's hooked up to a life support system.
Why have you done this?
If you disable his control systems, Mr. House will be powerless. He might as well be dead. Putting him back in his chamber would not help him, since he's already been exposed to outside contaminants. Ending his life would be the merciful option. With Mr. House neutralized, the next order of business is to confront the Brotherhood of Steel. The NCR wants the BOS completely wiped out, but you can work towards a peace treaty by earning their trust. Having dealt with the BOS one way or another, your next priority is to protect NCR President Kimball while he's giving his speech at Hoover Dam. The NCR soldiers are going to need a morale boost for the battle ahead. There are a few close calls, but President Kimball lives on, thanks to you. Now comes the time for war. The Legion forces have begun storming Hoover Dam, where the NCR is stationed. You drive out the Legion and take the fight to the Legate's camp, where you confront Legate Lanius. Your encounter with Lanius ends with his death or his retreat. Either way, the NCR will occupy the Legate's camp, and General Lee Oliver will thank you for your role in the NCR's victory. Because of your efforts, the NCR will have taken over the Mojave Desert region, presumably upholding some semblance of stability. And we've reached the end. That's it for the NCR path. Let's go back again and explore the path of Caesar. We are going to go back to when you first entered the New Vegas Strip and confronted Benny in the casino. For the sake of the story, let's say that instead of killing Benny, he slipped through your grasp. When exiting the casino, an agent from Caesar's Legion gives you an invitation from Caesar himself. When you meet Caesar in person, he orders you to destroy the Securitron vault that's in his camp. Having captured Benny, Caesar will let you deal with Benny once you're done. Using the platinum chip swiped from Benny, you enter the Securitron vault and do as Caesar ordered, laying waste to the dormant Securitron army. As a reward for carrying out his will, Caesar lets you take your revenge on Benny. You got 4 options. First option, you can fight him fairly in the arena, 1v1. Benny considers this a class act. Second option, crucifixion. Benny doesn't like this. Third option, straight up execution. Benny is fine with dying, as long as it's quick. Fourth option, you can set him free. The last option isn't viable if you want to stay on good terms with Caesar, since he will mark you as an enemy the moment you set Benny free. As long as your confrontation with Benny ends in his demise, Caesar will give your next mission. Because of the Securitron Vault's destruction, Caesar expects Mr. House to fight back, sooner or later. So you have to neutralize Mr. House. Getting into Lucky 38's control room, you decide whether to end Mr. House's life or disable disable him, both will get the same result. With Mr. House out of the picture, Caesar wants to tip the odds even more in his favor. He tells you to seek support from the Boomers because of their firepower. If allying with them doesn't work, he wants them wiped out. With or without the Boomer support, you report back to Caesar for further orders. There's a group known as the White Glove Society, a high-class organization that piques Caesar's interest. The White Glove Society used to be a tribe that engaged in cannibalism. After settling into the New Vegas Strip, they agreed to stop eating people. Caesar wants the White Glove Society to revert back to their old ways and join forces with him. This subplot can play out in a couple ways. To make it short, if the White Glove Society are tricked into eating human meat, they will acquire a taste for it. Caesar's Legion allows cannibalism, so the White Glove Society is fine with aligning with them. Your next mission is to take out the Brotherhood of Steel. While he's talking, Caesar goes through an absent seizure. He most likely has a serious underlying condition, but he chooses to ignore it. Having wiped out the Brotherhood, you return to Caesar and he pulls you aside for a private conversation. Caesar shares some of the health issues he's been facing. Should you be knowledgeable enough, you can diagnose him with a brain tumor. Not long after, Caesar slips into a coma. You can save his life by removing his brain tumor, or you can have him die. If Caesar dies, you will have to report to Lucius for your following assignments. But if you successfully remove Caesar's tumor, he immediately goes back to business. The mission ahead is a big one: assassinating President Kimball of the NCR. The method isn't all that important, as long as he's dead. With all the groundwork complete, it's time to begin the assault on Hoover Dam. Teaming up with Legate Lanius, you push back the NCR forces until you corner General Lee Oliver and his troops. Two things can happen. The NCR general makes a brave last stand and he ultimately falls in battle, along with the rest of his men. Or you can convince the general that the NCR already lost the battle, resulting in his retreat. Now that the Legion defeated the NCR, they dominate the Mojave Desert region. If Caesar died, Legate Lanius will take his place, killing everyone that stood in his way and enslaving those who remained. But if Caesar lives on, he will take over the Mojave with an iron fist. While Caesar's rule is less brutal compared to if Lanius took over, it's still brutal nonetheless. And that's all. That's how the story goes with Caesar's Legion. So what if you don't like Mr. House, the NCR, or Caesar's Legion? Well, good news, you don't have to work with any of them. There's a modified Securitron called Yes Man, and he can help you make New Vegas an independent power in the Mojave. In the Securitron vault at Caesar's main camp, it would be in your best interest to upgrade the Securitron army for your own uses. You can choose to blow up the vault, but that would be like shooting yourself in the foot before running a 5K marathon. After getting rid of Mr. House, you upload Yes Man's AI into Lucky 38's mainframe, putting Yes Man in control of the Securitrons. To gather support for an independent New Vegas, you will need to reach out to various factions and see if they will rally behind your cause. Once the preparations are complete, it's time to take over Hoover Dam. Fighting through the NCR forces and the Legion, you will eventually have to confront Legate Lanius. Afterwards, you will also have to deal with General Lee Oliver. Like with Legate Lanius, the general dies fighting or retreats to fight another day. With the NCR and the Legion driven out, New Vegas becomes an independent power in the Mojave. As long as the Securitron army is intact, they keep the streets of New Vegas secure. And that's all for the story of New Vegas. Is there a canon ending? Well, there's no definite answer yet, but we might find out soon. The Fallout TV series takes place about 15 years after New Vegas. In the last episode, the final shot reveals the city of New Vegas. As the end credits roll, a closer view shows us that the city is in really rough shape. Hopefully, we will find out what happened to New Vegas in Season 2. Anyway, that's it. That was Fallout New Vegas Condensed. Thanks for watching.